Joining us now to talk about all this politically is Marianne Marsh, former senior advisor to Secretary of State John Kerry, and Matt Schlapp, former White House political director under President George W. Bush and chairman of the American Conservative Union. Welcome to both of you.
Good morning.
So, Marianne, let me start with you. When you read this piece, were you shocked by it? Did it surprise you? Did you think there was a lot of meat in that story?
Shocked? No. But I think the real point here, Martha, is what Reince Priebus said, which is if Donald Trump's personal life should be off limits. And if that's the case, so should Hillary Clinton's. And I think what you've seen over the last several days, culminating in the New York Times story yesterday, is that Donald Trump has been hitting Hillary Clinton about women and her treatment of women and her personal life and her marriage. And I think Donald Trump got hit back. Now, that's what happens in a campaign. Your opponent hits you, you hit back in kind. And that's what we're seeing here. So what we'll see now is whether there's a double standard, whether Donald Trump's personal life is off limits and Hillary Clinton's isn't, or fair is fair. And I think that's what we're looking for in the next several days.
Well, I think, the New York Times should feel that they have a responsibility at this point to do that kind of equally exhaustive research into the Clinton side as well. And I think a lot of readers and a lot of reporters will be expecting that that's the way that they will respond, especially since this story has been called into question in a pretty serious way this morning with this response. Remember, she was the lead of this story. So usually you put, sort of the teeth of the story up front. Matt, what do you think about all this?
Look, I think it was a hit piece. I think that when you run for president, your life is on display. I think the American voters care a little less about every aspect of someone's personal life, but I think they do want to know where someone stands morally. And so I think a question about how you handle yourself in the workplace and such is fine. But I think the key here is this, which is Donald Trump is running for president. He's not on trial. Those of us who want to vote for him and who do support him, we're not his character witnesses. Donald Trump has to explain these allegations. It seems like with the top woman coming out already and saying that she was mischaracterized in this story, I think a lot of Americans across the country are going to say this is a typical paper that will support Hillary Clinton going after Donald Trump, and they went too far. And I think it misses the times, Martha. Actually, right now, with everything the country's facing, I actually think people know that Donald Trump has positives and negatives, but they think he's going to stand up and fight and lead. And, man, are they hungry for leadership.
Well, let's play
I think, Martha.
Go ahead, Marianne.
Yeah, I mean, just to Matt's point, I think the issues where we are in this campaign is both campaigns are trying to define the debate. Donald Trump has decided that this stage of the debate will be about character, transparency, and trust. So the character issues on the table. Donald Trump's gone after Hillary Clinton on character, transparency, and trust, and now he's being subjected to the same treatment. And that's what's fair here, and I think that's what people are looking for in this campaign, is either there's going to be a double standard, and the Clintons' personal lives have been examined for 30, 40 years now. So when you run for president, you can't hide who you really are. So I think what we're trying to establish in a campaign where there have been no rules, no boundaries, and conventional wisdom's been thrown out the window is, are there going to be any? And I think this is really the first test of this. Is there going to be a double standard for Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, I mean, I get your question. I think that most people read this piece and felt, the really stunning thing in many ways about Donald Trump is that there is a lot of stuff to sort of chew over. He had a lot of girlfriends. He's been married 3 times. All of those issues have been out there for such a long time, and people know this character. They know who he is, and regardless of that, if they think that's okay or they don't think that's okay, they have nominated him to lead the Republican Party, Matt. So it goes to a question of whether or not this is what people care about right now, because it feels like they care about different stuff.
That's right, Martha. So basically what the Never Trump or the Clinton people are trying to do is to tell the American voter that somehow Donald Trump is morally unfit to be the president, to be the commander-in-chief. And that is their central argument against him. The problem for these folks is that the candidate that the Democrats are going to pick, at least it looks likely they're going to pick, is Hillary Clinton, who really is not in a position to make any moral claims against Donald Trump, especially now that she's saying her husband's going to play a big role in her administration. He was impeached. We all know why, for being physically gratified in the Oval Office. He was disbarred. He paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in fines because of that ridiculous treatment of somebody's daughter in the Oval Office. And now they're going to make these moral claims, and they're missing the central focus. We don't want a holy monk as president necessarily. We want a leader. We want someone who will take on ISIS. We want somebody who will create jobs again. This is just one of those moments, like Abraham Lincoln said when he turned to General Grant. We want somebody who will fight, somebody who will fight for us. And that is the central focus of this election.
Fascinating. You know, we've spent so many cycles where this kind of stuff comes out, and it has sometimes had an impact, and it really feels like many people are beyond this kind of conversation. So, it may be an attempt to sell newspapers. But it will be very interesting if people sort of get to the point that they used to be at with politicians before there was such a thing as social media, where they didn't know half this stuff, where they say, I don't really care. I'm looking for somebody who fits the job description.
I would just say,
very quickly,
Marianne, sorry, last point. Yeah, last point. That's exactly where we should be. Your last point is exactly where voters in this country want to be. Yeah. But in any campaign, when you get hit, you hit back, and hopefully this is the last time we discuss this.
Yeah. Somebody better tell the New York Times. Thank you, guys.